Hello, hello, my friends. AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to my face and my card making space and more Halloween cards. This time using Spellbinders BetterPress. If you missed it, the other day I did my first official, because I've done other ones, but first official live stream on my YouTube channel. I will have a link to that at the end of this video if you missed it, but I unboxed the BetterPress that I had ordered and tested it out and had a lot of fun. It was fun. It was fun chatting with you guys. It was fun playing with the BetterPress, and in the process I had made a couple of backgrounds using this pumpkins and ghosts background BetterPress plate, and I didn't do anything with it in the live stream. And I had people asking, and so I made them into cards in this video. I also used some of the other Halloween BetterPress items, made a couple more cards, used some of them with I used some with some pigment ink. I also used some Distress Oxide ink. I did some splattering, all sorts of things. It was super fun. And then last but not least, I thought I would show this. I've talked about Simon Says Stamps Big Mama foam tape. You guys have seen me use this stuff. I don't even know how many years it's been now. And I always say they call it Big Mama foam tape because of the size of the roll. The tape itself is actually quite thin. In fact, it's one of the thinnest foam tapes I've ever come across. This is less than a 16th of an inch. I think it's 1/32 of an inch, something like that. And that's why I love it. And the roll is enormous. Hi. So in the process of making these, I used up what I had and had to crack into a new roll. So this is what I'm talking about when they say Big Mama. Like, this thing is enormous. So it lasts forever. I can't even remember how long it's been since I started the previous roll. So just thought I would mention that. So now you guys have a visual of what I'm talking about when I say the roll is huge. And now I have to get used to using the big roll again because I've been used to using, what was left on my roll. Anywho, I did a little painting too with my Kuretake gold watercolors. Just very simple. So these were fun. Keep watching and I will show you guys how I made these cards. Alrighty. So like I mentioned in the intro, check out my live stream that'll be linked at the end of this video where I went through the unboxing. I'd made a couple of the backgrounds. Obviously, I'm going to be making a whole bunch more things. So I started with, I took a piece of the Pebble BetterPress paper. I'm actually loving that. I ended up, I've ordered some more things, of course. And I didn't think I would love the Pebble of the different papers because there's 3 with the Spellbinders BetterPress. There's a white, there's a cream off-white. They have Porcelain, Bisque, and Pebble. I actually remembered. So basically white, off-white, and then this really, really pale gray. And I love the pale gray. Doing these cards, I used up all that I had. So I need to get more. Anywho, I took one of the A2 panels, I cut it in half, and I'm using the Open If You Dare press plate. And I put just the little skull dude. And this was kind of at the beginning of this where I was mulling around trying to figure out what I was going to make. I was like, oh, can I fit the sentiment on here? No, because I'd cut the panel in half. It wasn't long enough. So I was just getting started with all of it. But anywho, I taped the Pebble BetterPress paper to the chase. The clear one, the chase, and then the main part's the platen, something like that. They have specific names for because it's letterpress names. And sometimes I remember and sometimes I don't. Anyway, taped it to the clear plate, centered the Open If You Dare skull image, and I inked it up with the black BetterPress ink. And with that ink, with any inks on the press plates, you just tap, twist, and tap. Like bend and snap. You twist and tap. You don't press hard. You don't want to mush your ink into it because otherwise you're going to end up with a hot mess when you run it through your machine. So I ran it through and this will never get old. This is the same magic as hot foiling, as heat embossing. It's just look at it. The detail. I literally cannot get over the detail. I am a fan. I am a huge fan. So anywho, yeah, and like I said this in my live stream, I purchased the BetterPress because I wanted it. I'm all for it. These Halloween plates I'm using, Spellbinders, reached out and sent them to me. I would have bought them anyway because hello, you guys know Halloween, yay! So I was just able to. It would just enabled me to get them a little bit earlier, but I got more coming. I ordered like the fall ones and some other things because I'm having so much fun. Anywho, after I did the first one, I took the other little half of that Pebble paper, taped that as well, and then I cleaned off the plate. I used the archival cleaner, and I just used one of my microfiber cloths, cleaned it off, and then this time I used mulberry BetterPress ink. Really like this color. I don't know. I haven't even used any of the other colors yet other than black and this one. And it's just such a pretty purple. And you'll see it at the end when I have everything lined up. Like there's quite a big difference. And it's just fun. It's just fun. So then, of course, I am using the Spiderweb Backgrounds plate. This one, chef's kiss. I did some playing with this one. There'll be future videos. For now, I'm just using them like as intended, basically, which is, again, Pebble BetterPress paper. Got that centered. I inked up the plate with the black BetterPress ink, ran it through my Platinum 6 die cutting machine, and I just... The only drawback really to this thing is you just can't see it on camera. You know, that whole letterpress effect, and it pressed in. Like, I've shown it close up. I showed it close up in my live stream. I'll show it close up here and there in my videos, but it just doesn't do it justice. It's one of those things where you gotta see it in real life, you know? So anywho, I did the exact same thing, but this time with the mulberry ink, because I just thought, it's like, why not? You know, I always like to try and make, more than one if I can. And once I figured out what I was doing, I was like, well, I'll do one in black, one in mulberry. So in the end, I ended up making 4 cards. Now, for the sentiments. It's the sentiments from the Open If You Dare. That literally says Open If You Dare. And but at this point, I was out of that Pebble BetterPress paper. Like, I'm out. Completely out till my order gets here. Very sad. I'm very sad about that. But I was like, I'm just going to use some cardstock. And then I was like, ooh, but with cardstock, especially black cardstock, I was like, none of the BetterPress inks are going to work with that because it's black cardstock. You're not going to see it. And I was like, wait a minute. Gold pigment ink. Let's try it. So, and I kind of knew this would work because Dawn Wilslegel, who I linked to her videos in my live stream, that'll be linked at the end, because she did a really in-depth video about the BetterPress and tested with like different inks and all the different things. And she'd use this as the Honeybee Metallic Gold Pigment ink. Oh, you guys. Look at it. Perfection. I will be using this a lot. Perfect. And it does press. Even though this is just black cardstock, there is still a letterpress effect. It is impossible to see on camera. But in real life, you can see it. It would be even more impressed if I did like black watercolor paper, but whatever. It's sentiments. I'm not worried about it, but that would look super cool. But yeah, you can use these on regular paper, and I actually am going to do that for the insides of my cards, of course, as well. And the only difference is you just won't get that nice press into it, because that's the whole point with the BetterPress papers, is they're like literally made to be pressed into to give that letterpress effect, etc. But for things like the sentiments or the insides of my cards, I'm not going to use the really good stuff. No, I'm going to use my like thinner cardstock, and it works fine. And I also, for insides of cards, I don't want that super heavy letterpress like pressed in, because you're going to write over it, So anyhow, did all that, set it all aside. I wanted to add some detail to these little Open If You Dare skeleton images. And I just kept it simple. I just took my Kuretake Gansai Tambi watercolors, and I just used the gold, my go-to. And I'm using a very light hand with this because these are like metallic watercolors, so they will sit on top of this BetterPress. When I did my live stream, I did just regular watercoloring on the floral image that comes with the BetterPress, and that was wonderful. But anything pigmented or metallic like this, those types of things, it's the same thing with like if I had stamped an image. If I paint it with this and it's just a regular stamped image and you go over the lines, it's going to cover those lines. So same idea with this. So I just filled in kind of more the frame of the trunk. My brain, you know, what would be technically brass, you know? And then with basically a dry brush, like there wasn't much of the watercolor on it, I was adding little like scribbles of it to like the pumpkin and the skull. And again, I'll show that at the end, but it just gives it a little bit of that gold without covering up, you know, anything. It's just that little extra something. And here you can really see the difference between the black and the mulberry, like huge difference. Love it. So I did that with both of these, just painted in areas and then just kind of let the watercolor, the gold watercolor dry a little bit on the brush, and then just kind of scribbled the brush, like just literally dry brushed it onto all those other areas just to add just that little extra bit of shimmer. And then of course, I'm going to splatter all the backgrounds because of course, you all know the drill. So put the spiderweb backgrounds into my splat box. And same gold watercolor, this time with my fan brush, splattered that all over these backgrounds. And then the two backgrounds that I did in the live stream, the pumpkins and ghosts background, put those into my splat box and splattered those as well. This I went a little lighter hand because I didn't want to, like, you know, there's words and things. I don't want to like cover all of it, but there's always space for some splatter. So added splatter to these backgrounds, and then I'm just going to set all of those aside to dry. And then this is where I'm going to do the insides of the cards. So I've just got thin white cardstock, plain white cardstock, taping it to the plate, and I'm going to use the spiderweb background press plate. So get that centered up. Once that's in place, I'm going to ink this up with Lost Shadow Distress Oxide inks. Oxide inks will, I'm sure, work great with these. This one worked perfectly, but any of them. The only time I think that it might get a little iffy is if the press plate has really thick, solid areas. You know what I mean? But this, like spiderweb background, it's fine detail, and it was perfect. Seriously. Seriously. So I ran it through, and I was just, it's really pale, but that's the whole point, because this is going on the inside of the card. But like, and it does impress still a little bit. Like, it's not just like the image of the spiderwebs, it is pressed into the cardstock. So I was like, man, I'm having so much fun with this. So I did this 4 times over. Didn't bother including all that footage because it's the same thing. But did it once, and then just kept repeating the process, running it through, inking it up, run it through. And the oxides, because they are a felt ink pad, like they're a firm ink pad, you do the exact same thing as you would do with the BetterPress ink pads, is just a tap, tap and twist. That's it. You don't need to press. So then for more sentiments, because these are going to go on the inside of the cards, I'm using the sentiments that come in the Halloween icons press plates, and they're all connected, which is wonderful because then you can do them all at once. So I got that centered onto the BetterPress. I use black cardstock again, and I'm going to use the Honeybee Metallic Gold pigment ink. And with pigment inks, a person will have to experiment because it's going to depend on the ink pad, the brand, how juicy your ink pad is, etc. With this one, it's the exact same idea. I'm tapping. You do not want to like press your ink pads, any of the ink pads you're using, into these, because if you get ink mushed into it, that ink is going to get mushed into your cardstock, because when you run it through the machine, it presses everything together. So I just do just nice light tapping. That's it. And again, remove it. I was like, oh, this is just, the angels were singing, life was wonderful, It's just satisfying. So inked that up onto the black cardstock and then did it a second time. And yeah, I'm looking forward to playing with these more. I did test like I said, future videos, just stay tuned. But I did use like a white pigment ink on black cardstock with the spider webs. Oh man, love. Anyway, that is not for today's video. So inked up my sentiments, and then I decided I wanted to add some of those Halloween icons that come in that same set with the sentiments to the inside panels. So the panels that I'd used, the spiderweb background with the Lost Shadow Distress Oxide ink. So I just recentered that onto the plate. And then for 2 of the cards, I'm going to use these 2 little ghosties that are holding hands, which is so cute. One I'll ink up with the BetterPress black ink, and then I'll clean it, and then I'll ink it up with the mulberry for the second card. And yeah, ran that through. Like, I love it. And I couldn't have. I was going to say, oh, I could have added a sentiment, like press the sentiment right into it. But no, the sentiments have to be separate because it does all of them at once. So yeah, that's fine, because then I'm going to die cut them and I'm going to have extras. It's all good. So anywho, no, I didn't miss a step there and, make more work for myself. I do with other things all the time. Anywho, cleaned off the little plate and then inked it up with the mulberry ink. Centered another background onto the plate. Had just taped in place. Like usually you're supposed to tape like the 4 corners. With things like this, I was like, top and bottom, it's good. I'm not too worried about it, and it's fine, So, and for a lot of this, I was just using my own random little bit of washi tape because either one works. The Spellbinder stuff, I love my Spellbinders yellow tape. You guys see me use it a ton, especially when I'm hot foiling. And yeah, it's also really good and obviously recommended by Spellbinders. They're the ones that manufacture and make all the things to work together. But yeah, I was just using little bits of washi tape to hold because it is what it is. And then for the other 2 cards, I used this big skull icon from the Halloween icon set. And same thing. Inked one up with the black BetterPress ink, ran it through the machine, and then I'll end up doing it a second time off camera with the mulberry ink. So that all my inside card panels have the spiderweb with the Lost Shadow Distress Oxide ink, and then one of the little Halloween icons. Fun. So those first sentiments I did from the Open If You Dare with the gold on black, I used just one of the dies, or the die because it's all connected, from the Halloween icons to die cut that. And then, yeah, it's one die. So you just line up that wafer die on top of those sentiments that die cut them all at once. I love that. I love that. And then I like sets that do that, you can do all the sentiments at once, either stamp or hot foil them or whatever, and then there's one coordinating die that die cuts them all at the same time. And it's just like, yes. And all the extras, I just put back in the packaging with the Halloween icon set because I'll use them on future cards. So to assemble all my cards now, because I've got everything, everything's been better pressed, everything's been colored, die cut, etc. So the Open If You Dare images, I had trimmed them down before I'd watercolored them. And then I trimmed down some of Simon Says Stamp's matte gold cardstock, framed that up with that, adhered them together with craft tacky glue. All of my card bases are going to be top folding A2 black note cards. And then all of my backgrounds I also trimmed down because they were originally all A2 sized. So these spiderwebs I trimmed down to like 4 by 5 1/4, just slightly smaller than the note cards. And then the inside panels I had trimmed down to like 3 3/4 by 5, something like that, so that the card base kind of frames it all nicely, And then adhered one of those sentiments to the inside of the card. And then the Open If You Dare images I'm going to pop up with that Big Mama foam tape. So it'll give it a little bit of dimension, but not a lot of bulk. And then the sentiments I am going to pop into place. And for those, I just use some of my thin waffle flower black foam tape. Just stuck that on the back and then pop that into place as well. And again, keeping everything like matchy-matchy. So the spider webs that were done with mulberry ink got the skull that was with the mulberry ink, and the inside of the card is the one with mulberry ink, and then the same thing with the black. And then for the pumpkins and ghost backgrounds, those I trimmed down a little bit more, and I matted those with Simon's matte gold cardstock. And yes, I wasn't thinking when I did this. Like by this point, my brain was kind of on autopilot. I've shown this in a ton of videos. I usually will cut out the centers when I'm matting things with specialty cardstocks like the metallics, my glitter cardstocks, etc. Because why waste the centers? No one's going to see that the center's missing. So either I die cut sentiments from it or whatever. But I wasn't thinking. So like always, do as I say, not as I do. But anywho, it was too late by the time I actually, I was like, oh man, but they were already glued together with Kuretake glue, so there was no going back at that point. So, dealt with it. Anyway, backed those with the Big Mama foam tape. You saw I ran out, pulled out the new roll that is enormous, and then popped these onto the card bases with that foam tape, so it's got a bit of dimension. And then the insides I'd already adhered with the panels and the sentiments, and I'll show those at the end as well. And then as a final little bit of embellishment, just to bring in, I got splatter, but I needed some more bling. I'm using some Trinity Stamps Gold Star embellishments. Oh, these are some of my favorites. They're fabulous. I've shown these in other videos, and there's silver ones too, and they're holographic, and they're delicious. Delicious to look at. Don't eat them. Like Tim Holt says, don't like your artwork. It's true. Even though some of these things look really yummy, don't actually eat them. Anyway, adhered these into place with little dabs of Kuretake glue, just randomly. Because, there's no rules with this kind of stuff. Because, yeah, I just stuck them all over the place on all of these cards. So that finished them off. So now you can see the difference really between the black and the mulberry, and it's just fun. And in real life, again, they're pressed in, so you got that whole letterpress effect as well, and just the luxe, that BetterPress cardstock too is nice. It is really nice. And then the insides, super super cute, just regular white cardstock, spider webs, the little icons, the sentiments with gold. Yeah. I can't, I've said it how many times now, like a broken record. I had a lot of fun. It's fun to play with this thing. So, like always, I will have a link below the video to my blog post. I'll have all the photos in the blog post. I'll have picture links to all the supplies. That'll be linked directly below the video in the description box. You can just expand it. It's all there. There's also the whole supply list with everything linked as well. Links to my social medias. All of that is below. And then at the end of this video, I will link to that live stream where I unbox this. And I will also link to my Halloween 2023 playlist that I will continue adding to as I get more Halloween videos up. So you can check that all out at the end as well if you are interested. And thank you guys so very much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping and commenting and letting the robot overlords know that you guys like what you're seeing, because it genuinely helps. And yeah, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you all very soon in the next video. Bye.